So, welcome back to another episode. On today's episode, I'm going to be taking a look at SNK Arcade Classics 1. Now, I did an episode on the Neo Geo a few years ago, and since then, a lot of people have been asking me to talk about the Neo Geo some more, and that's something I've wanted to do for a long time. I love the Neo Geo. I've always loved the system. I think it's a great machine. I love the games. I really love the games. But the thing is I don't own all the games to talk about, so what I wanted to do was use the SNK Arcade Classics to talk about a lot of the games I used to just play in the arcade. Now, the thing about the Arcade Classics 1, this is the PlayStation 2 version, is this is not all of the Neo Geo games by any means, but I just thought I'd use this as a reference to talk about the memories of these particular games. One of the first games on the collection is Art of Fighting. One of the first few fighting games on the Neo Geo besides Fatal Fury. Now, the very first time I saw Art of Fighting, I walked into a local arcade, and it was up on, at that time, a big screen monitor. It was actually a big screen TV setup, actually, at the time. I remember walking in, and the first thing that, you noticed with Art of Fighting back in the day was the characters were so huge. I'd been playing Street Fighter, and the characters were a decent size, but Art of Fighting, with the scaling, they were like the size of the entire screen, and I, at that time, had never seen characters that big. I thought it was amazing. The other thing that struck me about Art of Fighting at the time was that you could actually damage your opponents. That is something I always loved about Art of Fighting. It's one of the classics of the Neo Geo. When you think of the Neo Geo, I always think of Art of Fighting. And when I got my home system Neo Geo years ago, the first game I got was Art of Fighting 2. And that built on the first game quite a lot. And the first game isn't what I would call a really balanced, excellent fighter, but it sure had the looks of it. And I think they really got it right in the second one. The second one's a very good game. Very tough end bosses, though, I gotta say that. Another great game on this collection is Baseball Stars 2. Now, my history with Baseball Stars is that I played the original on the NES. I love that game. I'm not really into sports games, but I played Baseball Stars every day after school. I really, really love that game. Now, when I first saw the Neo Geo cabinet when I walked into that arcade, Baseball Stars was one of the first few games on it, and I couldn't believe how cool it looked. And I guess what did it for me at the time was the anime graphics of it. It had really smooth controls. The controls were really easy to get you the hang of. It wasn't really a complicated sports game, so I could just kind of pick it up, play it, and I could either be very good at it or really bad at it. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Me and my friends used to play that one a lot. Now, years later, when I got my home system, I was able to pick up Baseball Stars 1 for a reasonable price, like $20 back in the day. And then I picked up Baseball Stars 2, one that I didn't have a chance to play in the arcades too much. And I love them both. I'm more nostalgic towards Baseball Stars the original, but Baseball Stars 2 is an excellent game as well. Here's another one that I own, and it's on the collection as well. Burning Fight. Man, this game gets a bad rap. It gets a really, really bad rap, and from my experiences playing it, everybody calls it a Final Fight clone, and is it a side view beat 'em up? It absolutely is. But at the time, it was still doing its own thing. It was Final Fight on the Neo Geo, and that wasn't a bad thing. And one thing I liked, it kind of had a little, a few Street Fighter-ish controls for playing the game, and it's very repetitive. But a lot of those games back then were repetitive. They're side view fighting games, but for some reason, Burning Fight gets a lot of hate, and it's really sad because when I saw it in the arcade the first time, I thought it was awesome. I had no problem with it. And it's funny, years later, everybody's like, oh, Burning Fight sucks, it's this and this and this, but Burning Fight, it's funny, I was able to get this copy of Burning Fight for like $20 when I got my home system, and I walked in the store, it's $20, I'm like, oh my god, like, Burning Fight's here, I couldn't believe to actually find that, so I like Burning Fight, it's a great game. And I took a little bit of flack in my original Neo Geo episode that I did years ago by saying that Fatal Fury 1 was a Street Fighter clone, and I wanna take that back for a second and rephrase that, because what I meant is that Street Fighter, when it came out, was the king of fighting games. That everybody was playing that, and when I went to my arcade, I'm playing Street Fighter, but off to the side was Fatal Fury. That came in one day, and I started playing it, and I guess it was the only other game that was like Street Fighter, so I think a lot of people, including myself, looked at it as a clone fighter, but it was its own original game, and it later spawned sequels and became really its real own thing. And I love Fatal Fury. I've never got a chance to say that, I think, in the original review of the Neo Geo. I think Fatal Fury is an excellent game. I love the characters. And here's my copy of Fatal Fury Special. I love all these characters. Terry Bogard, Andy Bogard, Joe Higashi. Oh my, there's just too many amazing characters. Duck King? Do I need to say anything more? Oh my god. But Fatal Fury came out at a very interesting time, just after Street Fighter first came out, and it did its own thing. It really did, and I think myself and a few other people call it a clone. I take that back now. Fatal Fury really came into its own, and I remember being in Las Vegas. I walked into an arcade. This was cool. When Fatal Fury Special came out, I just had to show that. And I just remember in this one arcade, I think it was in the MGM, it was just a row of Fatal Fury Special machines, and I'd never seen that many Neo Geos in one place, all playing the next big game. Yeah, that's a memory I always have about Fatal Fury Special. Okay, you can't mention the Neo Geo without mentioning the King of Monsters. And this was a very, very cool game back in the days. You just basically play as monsters and you fight against each other. It's very simple. It really is. There's nothing complicated here. There's nothing secret or hidden. It is what it is. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and in checking, if you go back and check out, the King of Monsters, it's very, very simple, but it's a lot of fun. It's something you can pick up and play. It's supposed to be a quarter game. You put a couple quarters in, you play King of Monsters. It's not supposed to change your life, but if you get a chance on this, SNK Classics collection, give this a go. It's actually quite a lot of fun. How can I not mention the Neo Geo without mentioning a couple of shooters? And Last Resort is a great shooter to mention. Holy shit, I remember me and my friends playing this game. Oh, at the time, the graphics of the Neo Geo were really highlighted by Last Resort. It was just an incredible game to see in motion, and it's one I wish I had. It's just a great classic Neo Geo shooter, and what more can be said? Last Resort, brilliant game. I remember when I first got my Neo Geo home console, it was a couple years later, and I think it was my very first eBay purchase. And that was a game that I had to own. It was my first experience with the Neo Geo, seeing it, and that is Magician Lord. God, what a wonderful game. I mentioned in my original Neo Geo video that I walked into an arcade, actually up by me, just up the street, for me and Rob at the time. And I walked in, and there's this red machine, and there's Baseball Stars, NAM 1975, and Top Players Golf. But the one game that really caught my eye, those games really caught my eye, but the one game that really caught my eye was Magician Lord. This side view action game. And I know, I'm saying about all of these games, but the graphics of Magician Lord at that time, like at the time we were playing the Super Nintendo, and the Super Nintendo looked great. It looked really good, but holy crap. Here came Magician Lord. Above and beyond everything else, I'd never seen a video game that looked that good. Magician Lord, do you know what? Magician Lord still holds up. Definitely give this game a whirl. Of all the games on here, I gotta say that Magician Lord is up there as my favorite because it was my first experience with the Neo Geo.